Most people imagine glucose control as something tied to strict diets or intense workouts, but walking quietly plays a far bigger role than it gets credit for. A simple walk can shift how your muscles absorb glucose, almost like flipping a hidden metabolic switch. Even short bouts have been shown in controlled studies to noticeably improve insulin sensitivity. It's one of the few tools that works for nearly everyone, regardless of age or fitness level. The beauty of walking is that it taps directly into your largest glucose-hungry tissues, your leg muscles. When those muscles contract rhythmically, they pull glucose from the bloodstream without needing as much insulin. Scientists call this mechanism insulin-independent glucose uptake, and it's one of the main reasons walking is surprisingly powerful. Think of it this way. Every step is a tiny request your muscles make for extra fuel. Instead of leaving glucose floating in your bloodstream, your body starts clearing it, using it for energy right away. For people managing prediabetes or diabetes, this effect can act almost like a natural brake on blood sugar spikes. And here's the interesting part. Walking doesn't have to be long or fast to work. Even short, relaxed walks create measurable improvements, but the timing of the walk changes the impact dramatically, and that's where things get fascinating. Have you ever felt that weird energy crash after a meal, like your body suddenly hit a glucose wall? Tell me in the comments. I'm always fascinated by how different people experience blood sugar swings, and your story might help someone who's going through the same thing. When you finish a meal, your digestive system begins breaking food into glucose, releasing it steadily into your bloodstream. Your pancreas notices the rise and releases insulin to help move that glucose into your cells. This process is normal, but the curve it creates depends entirely on what and how much you ate. Some meals create gentle waves, others produce sharp spikes. Most people don't realize that the body is working overtime in the hour after eating. Blood sugar rises, insulin rushes in, your muscles and liver try to soak up the excess, and your body does its best to keep everything balanced. If the meal is rich in refined carbohydrates, this workload becomes even heavier. And when the system is overwhelmed, glucose stays elevated longer than it should. This is also the window where many people feel sluggish, sleepy, or crave something sweet, not because they lack willpower, but because of the chemical rhythm happening internally. The glucose curve you ride after eating can shape your energy, mood, and hunger. Now here's the link to walking. Moving your body alters this entire metabolic sequence, but whether you walk before or after a meal determines which part of the process you influence. Walking before meals tends to influence baseline glucose and insulin sensitivity. It prepares your muscles to use glucose more efficiently, almost like priming a pump before turning it on. Studies have found that even a short pre-meal walk can slightly lower the glucose response to the upcoming meal, especially if it's carbohydrate heavy. Walking after meals, however, acts directly on the spike itself. Instead of allowing glucose to rise freely, your muscles begin pulling it from the bloodstream immediately. This doesn't cancel the meal, of course, but it smooths the curve in a noticeable way. Many experiments show post-meal walking reduces peak glucose by up to 20% compared to sitting.
The surprising part is that these two timings don't compete. They simply create different metabolic outcomes. Pre-meal walking improves insulin sensitivity for future meals. Post-meal walking reduces the spike from the meal you just ate. They both matter, but in very different ways. Understanding these differences is key. It unlocks the logic behind why some people swear walking before eating changed everything, while others say the real magic happens right after the meal. Right after you finish eating, digestion begins quickly. Glucose levels rise within minutes, and by around 20 to 30 minutes, most people hit the steepest part of the curve. This early phase is where your body works its hardest to keep everything stabilized. If you're sitting still, the spike tends to climb higher and fall slower. But something fascinating happens if you stand up and walk during this window. The contracting muscles start clearing glucose immediately, reducing the height of the spike. Research shows that even a slow walk counters this early surge in a way medications sometimes can't. That's why post-meal movement has become a major recommendation in metabolic health research. During this 20-minute period, insulin is also rising sharply. When muscles help with glucose clearance, insulin doesn't have to work as hard. Over time, this reduces strain on the pancreas, a key factor for people trying to avoid insulin resistance. It's almost like partnering with your own physiology instead of fighting against it. Instead of letting the spike unfold naturally, you interrupt it gently, guiding it downward before it becomes a problem. The idea of walking for 10 minutes after meals isn't a fitness trend. It actually comes from multiple studies showing that small, frequent walks stabilize blood sugar better than a single long session. These microbursts of movement keep glucose from rising too quickly and encourage your muscles to burn it gradually. One study compared 10-minute post-meal walks to a single 30-minute walk at another time of day. The shorter walks were more effective for controlling glucose. The reason is simple. Timing beats duration when it comes to metabolic control. You're intercepting the spike at the moment it's forming. Another interesting point is that 10 minutes feels manageable. It's not overwhelming, it doesn't require equipment, and it fits into real life. For many people, consistency becomes easier when the commitment is small but frequent. Walking before a meal influences your metabolism in a surprisingly strategic way. When you move your muscles before eating, they become more sensitive to insulin, almost as if you've warmed up their ability to absorb glucose. This creates a temporary metabolic advantage known as enhanced insulin sensitivity, which several research groups have documented in both healthy individuals and those with impaired glucose tolerance. During a pre-meal walk, your muscles begin using stored glucose for energy. This small dip in your circulating glucose can actually make your body more efficient when the next wave of nutrients arrives from your meal. Instead of requiring a large insulin response, your cells respond more willingly to smaller amounts. That's why some people report more stable energy after eating when they walk beforehand. Another interesting effect is psychological. Walking before meals subtly shifts appetite hormones. Some studies show a small reduction in hunger signals afterward, which may help prevent overeating, especially at dinner, the meal where most people consume the most calories. So, while post-meal walks get most of the attention, pre-meal walks reshape how your body handles food from the moment you sit down. That's why they work so well as a long-term strategy for metabolic health. Every time you eat, especially meals rich in carbohydrates, your body experiences a natural rise in glucose. This isn't a flaw, it's biology. But the size of that rise varies dramatically from person to person. Some people see a gentle incline, while others experience sharp, fast spikes that drop quickly and leave them tired or craving sweets shortly after. This roller coaster happens because glucose enters the bloodstream faster than insulin can move it into your cells. The steeper the climb, the harder the crash tends to be. And repeated high spikes are linked to inflammation, increased hunger, and long-term metabolic issues. Researchers consistently highlight that reducing the peak, not eliminating it but lowering it, creates profound improvements in how people feel daily. Walking right after eating softens this roller coaster. Muscles begin burning glucose immediately, reducing the height of the peak and smoothing out the descent. Many people notice fewer energy crashes, less brain fog, and more stable hunger when they adopt post-meal walks. This is why timing matters as much as the walk itself. You're essentially stepping into the spike and influencing its shape while it's still forming. A lot of people wonder exactly when to start their walk after eating. The evidence points to one consistent answer: within the first 10 to 30 minutes after finishing your meal. This window aligns with the early rise in glucose, allowing movement to flatten the spike as it begins. Starting too late, like an hour afterward, still offers benefits, but it won't influence the peak as strongly.
At that point, your glucose level may already be dropping naturally. Walking then helps overall calorie burning and insulin sensitivity, but it doesn't reshape the curve of that specific meal. Intensity also matters less than timing. A simple, comfortable pace is enough. Scientists regularly emphasize that you don't need to break a sweat or hit a certain heart rate to see improvements. What matters is giving your muscles a chance to participate in the metabolic process at the right moment. Think of this window as a metabolic opportunity. You're not trying to undo the meal, you're just helping your body handle it more gracefully. Not all meals behave the same way in your bloodstream. A small breakfast with high protein and moderate carbs creates a slow, steady glucose rise. A dinner packed with pasta or bread behaves very differently. Understanding your meal type helps you choose the most effective walking strategy. Larger meals or carb-heavy dishes tend to create sharper spikes. For these, a walk immediately after eating works exceptionally well. The muscles become glucose sponges, preventing the spike from climbing too fast. Research shows that this timing is especially useful for people who struggle with high post-meal glucose peaks. On the other hand, lighter meals or meals high in fiber don't demand such urgency. You can delay your walk 10 or 15 minutes and still get a strong effect. What matters is matching the meal's intensity with the timing of your movement. Paying attention to how certain foods behave in your bloodstream, rice, white bread, potatoes, sugary snacks, helps you adjust your walking habits. It's a simple form of self-awareness that pays off tremendously.
One long walk a day is great for overall health, but when it comes to blood sugar, breaking activity into smaller pieces is often more effective. Frequent, short bursts keep glucose more stable across the entire day. They mimic the way our ancestors moved, steady, natural activity instead of long periods of sitting followed by a single workout. These micro-walks also offer a powerful psychological benefit. They don't feel like exercise. You can fit them between tasks, after meals, during a short call, or while waiting for something to finish in the oven. Because they're easy, people stick to them longer, which is the secret weapon of any metabolic habit. From a scientific perspective, short walks repeatedly interrupt the body's tendency to let glucose build up while sitting. Think of them as gentle resets. Each reset prevents glucose from drifting upward over time, especially after meals or snacks. Before we move into the final part of this video, I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you enjoy one longer daily walk, or do shorter walks spread throughout the day fit your routine better? I'm really curious to know what works for you. And if this video is helping you understand your blood sugar a little better, consider leaving a super thanks. It really supports the channel and helps me keep bringing science-based content to you. Walking is incredibly safe, but timing it poorly can lead to uncomfortable side effects that most people don't expect. Right after a very large meal, some individuals jump into a fast walk, thinking it will burn off what they ate. Instead, they end up with bloating, reflux, or that heavy feeling in the stomach because digestion hasn't settled yet. A gentle stroll works, rushing doesn't. Another situation to be mindful of is walking when your blood sugar is already low, which can happen if you've gone many hours without eating or use medications that lower glucose. Even mild movement can make you feel shaky or lightheaded in those cases. A small snack or a slower pace can prevent that, but it's something people often overlook until they feel the symptoms. There's also the belief that walking longer automatically increases benefits. But extremely long walks right after eating can pull blood flow away from your digestive organs, leaving some people nauseous or tired. Short, steady walks are usually the sweet spot when the goal is glucose control rather than endurance. What matters most is observing your own body's signals.
You don't need to obsess over perfect timing. The only real mistake is forcing walks that don't match how your body feels in that moment. Morning walks tend to support metabolic stability for the rest of the day. They help reduce elevated fasting glucose, especially in people who experience the dawn effect, where the liver releases extra glucose early in the morning. A morning walk can act like a gentle reset, improving insulin sensitivity before your first meal even hits your system.
Evening walks play a different role. They're incredibly effective at reducing the strong glucose spike that often follows dinner, which is typically the largest and most carbohydrate-heavy meal for many households. Studies show that people who walk after dinner tend to have smoother nighttime glucose levels and often sleep better because their body isn't fighting a large spike before bed. Researchers consistently find that both times of day offer meaningful benefits, but each targets a different issue. Morning walks are great for baseline glucose control. Evening walks are ideal for managing the biggest daily spike. Neither one is superior. They're simply tools you choose depending on your needs. The smartest approach is noticing where your glucose challenges typically occur. If mornings are the problem, walk early. If evenings are where spikes hit hardest, move after dinner. Science supports either choice. If your main goal is controlling the rise in blood sugar after meals, the research is very clear. Walking 10 to 30 minutes after eating is the most effective timing. It softens the spike, stabilizes energy, and reduces the workload on your pancreas. You don't need intensity, you just need movement during the window when glucose is climbing. Walking before meals gives your body a different advantage. It primes your muscles, increases insulin sensitivity, and prepares your metabolism to handle the next wave of nutrients with less strain. Think of it as putting your system in ready mode, which can be especially helpful for people managing insulin resistance. In reality, you don't have to choose. Many people find a mix of approaches works best: a short pre-meal walk when they have time, and a short post-meal walk after heavier meals. The real power of walking comes from its adaptability. It fits your schedule, not the other way around. If this video helped you understand how timing can transform a simple walk into a metabolic tool, leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who wants to improve their blood sugar naturally and backed by real science. Your support helps this content reach more people who need it.